Students and teachers in Florida will now be able to speak freely about gender identity and sexual orientation in classrooms.
So the law will remain intact. Now, the settlement clarifies what's allowed in Florida's classroom, as experts on both sides are claiming victory.
This is a solution in search of a problem.
Anthony Verdugo, founder and executive director of the Christian Family Coalition, says the Parental Rights in Education Act passed under Governor Ron DeSantis 2 years ago. It's still solid and strong.
The law still stands. You cannot discuss sexual orientation or gender identity as part of classroom instruction.
North Miami Councilman Scott Galvin, Florida's longest LGBTQ legislator, disagrees.
The power of Don't Say Gay was in the fear that it created, the uncertainty that it created.
Can you give us an example of that?
Can we talk about these things? Are we allowed to support our youth? Can we put a flag in the classroom? With today's ruling, with today's settlement, if you're a teacher, put a picture of your spouse on your desk. These things are allowed in Florida classrooms.
In terms of the pride flag, I still think that's open for debate. Parents will still need to be notified if a student addresses a teacher about this.
No teacher has ever or will ever go into their school setting, into a classroom setting, and say, let me teach you how to be gay.
Reaction coming in from top school officials in Broward County, calling the settlement a win.
Be able to professionally develop our teachers to give the right curriculum, to make sure that we're in line with statutes, and making sure the parents are aware that if they're uncomfortable with it, they have the option to opt out.
In the settlement, the state clarifying language in the law that prohibits classroom curriculum about sexual orientation and gender identity for younger students and age appropriate for older. The language does make clear now the law does not prohibit discussion, conversation, references, or counseling for and about gay students, also references in literature, even school projects. In a statement, Governor Ron DeSantis calling the settlement a major win, adding, quote, "We are victorious and Florida classrooms will remain a safe place under the Parental Rights Education Act," and State Senator Chevron Jones calling it a landmark moment, saying in part, classrooms and schools ought to be safe spaces that promote empathy, compassion, and belonging, not fear and uncertainty.
It's a fact that it's a win because last year, the opponents came into court attempting to strike down the law as unconstitutional, and they failed because the judge ruled that they did not have legal standing.
Governor DeSantis, congratulations on what you think was a win. The difference is, today, kids are allowed to gather together as LGBT students when yesterday they weren't able to.
So under this agreement or settlement, Florida must clarify the law scope in schools across the state to clarify any confusion.
Here we go. Happy Friday.
It's almost Pride Month. Unfortunately, our high school year ends just before June begins. What's a Gender and Sexuality Alliance sponsor to do? Our club members wanted a day to feel prideful near the end of the year. So we came up with the Day of Love. The focus of the Day of Love is simple, to broadcast a message of support and positivity about our school's LGBTQ population in a fun way. And maybe we can start a few productive conversations along the way. From year to year, depending on the size of our membership, we've done a variety of activities throughout the Day of Love. But at its most basic, we sell pride flags and crafts, have productive conversations, and celebrate. We have the flag sales in a central location in our cafeteria so that people come in, and then that's where part 2 can happen, the conversations.
Moms for Liberty members are going to places like Broward County School Board meetings, reading out of context passages from these books, and then demanding that the school board remove them.
So what's
that is the way.
Yeah.
The question I'm asking is, what is the expertise that you have and other Moms for Liberty advocates have to decide that a book, an award-winning book like All Boys Aren't Blue, isn't appropriate for students to read?
All boys aren't blue. And I will quote from it. I put some lube on and got him on his knees, and I began to slide into him from behind. I pulled out of him and kissed him while he masturbated. He asked me to turn over while he slipped a condom on himself. This was my ass, and I was struggling to imagine someone inside me.
What
a tragic story of a young man who's anally raped by his adult family member. So you have incest, rape, pedophilia. Joy, you said you'd let me answer, so I'm going to answer
Please
for
do.
you. In what context is a strap-on dildo acceptable for public school? I mean, that's my question to you. Tell me what the context around the strap-on dildo or the rape of a minor child by a teacher.
Hold on a second.
No, we're talking about public school.
One moment.
All right.
So now you've asked me questions.
Sure.
I'm going to answer it.
Okay.
Well, who is the main character? What's the name of the main character in All Boys Aren't Blue?
You're asking me right now.
You just gave me very specific information about this book, so you're presenting yourself as somebody expert.
It's the gentleman.
Hold on. Who's the main character in the book?
The main character is the author.
What's his name?
George, I believe, is his first name.
Because you're giving me very specific information that is.
You're asking me to remember the name of an author.
You just remembered very
specific
specific
Joy.
Here's my question.
We're talking about strap. You didn't answer my question.
No. I'm going to answer your question.
Great. I would love to hear that.
Absolutely. Well, I'm interviewing you, and you're not interviewing me. So let's just make sure it's a conversation. Okay.
Great.
So what I'm saying to you is that as you are not an expert in this book,
I don't have to be an expert to know that dildos aren't appropriate for public school. I mean, come on, let's get real.
This book is a full context story, as you said, of the author's experience. Why is it your right, or a Moms for Liberty activist's right, to say that a parent who wants their child to have access to this book, which gives a personal experience of this author, why doesn't a liberal parent, for instance, or a parent of an LGBTQ kid, why don't they have a right for their child to just have access to this book? Why is it your right to say they can't?
So, again, we're talking about incest, rape, and pedophilia.
And each parent, each parent has to decide what is appropriate for their child to read. So I want you to answer. I'm going to ask it one more time.
Right.
What is your right to tell a parent who wants their child, who might feel seen by this story, why don't they have the right? Why don't they have the right as a parent to say, my child can have access to this book?
If a child feels seen by this story, that means that they have been the victim of a predator. That means that they have either been raped by a family member, they've experienced
and your proof of that is what?
You just said that
What's
if a child feels seen by this story.
What I'm saying, Joy, you're now making assumptions about it.
No, but if a child has been raped, we should do a lot better than put a book on a library
Now you're literally
shelf.
creating a story behind a child that you don't know. Let me show you a form. This is a form that can be obtained in Broward County, Florida. I'm going to show it to the audience, and then I'm going to show it to you. Okay. This is called the opt. Yeah, please. I'm going to hand it to you. Thank you so much. It's called the opt-out form.
Okay.
An opt-out form would allow any parent, because you said you are in favor of parental rights.
I am.
It would allow any parent to opt out of their child being able to take books out of the library without their parents' permission.
Okay.
So that Moms for Liberty, why not advocate that every school in America have an opt-out form so that a parent who doesn't want their child to access a book like All Boys Aren't Blue, that they can make that choice? Because then each parent, including a liberal parent, a black parent, a parent who wants their child to read a book about African-American history, then they get their rights.
We want children to read books about
Why not just opt out
history,
for yourself rather than tell other parents what they can and cannot?
First of all, I think what you're talking about here is a wonderful step in the right direction. We should be having conversations about this. This is about local control. A lot of these decisions are made at the local school board level, and that's where these decisions should be made. And there should be vibrant conversations about what's happening in our public schools and what kids have access to. Joy, however, maybe we could just put all the books with all the graphic sexual content, the dildos, the rape, the incest.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Let's do a back room.
Excuse me.
Let's put a curtain up in the library like they used to do.
One moment.
One moment. Remember when we were little and you would go to the video store?
The books that Moms for Liberty.
And they put those books that Moms for Liberty. With pornography behind
I know
the
that
curtain.
I've seen.
We could just do that in the public library.
I have seen tapes of
Does
what
that
Moms for
sound
Liberty does, and you all go into school board meetings
Joy,
and you
this
read
is a
graphic stuff.
disingenuous conversation.
No, it's not.
America used to understand that there was something called age-appropriate content.
Right, and here's my question again.
Ratings on movies.
Again. Ruby Bridges Goes to School is on the list of books that Moms for Liberty has attempted to have removed.
Absolutely not.
It absolutely is. Let me ask about the people who are making the decision for their parents, because you have not answered yet why a liberal parent or an African-American parent can't
We have
say
parents who are Democrats who are members of our organization.
But you're still trying to make decisions for all the kids. Here are some of the parents that are filing, or some of your advocates. Bridget Ziegler, the Moms for Liberty co-founder, the wife of the recently ousted Florida Republican Party chairman, Christian Ziegler, who allegedly was involved in threesomes, same-sex threesomes. Mrs. Ziegler was removed from the school board at which she was a leader. You've had
she wasn't removed from the school board.
Okay, you have Lauren DePaula. She was making book ban requests in Alachua County, but then records show that she and her husband didn't live there. They'd sold their home in that county. Carrie Blair in Tennessee, who was arrested for property theft charges after allegedly stealing from Target, skip scanning in Target. Why should those three people get to make decisions about what other children should be able to read? Other parents' children should be able to read.
Do you know that I served as a school board member from 2016 to 2020?
Are you going to answer my question?
Yeah, I'm
because
going
we don't
to.
have an endless time.
Joy, I'm going to answer your question, but I need you to understand that when I was an elected representative, I would sit on that dais. And how dare I, sitting there as an elected representative, judge a parent when they would come to the podium to speak and advocate for their child? Because as we started this conversation, we'll end it. Every parent has a fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children. And I would not stand in judgment, Joy, about a parent's education level, their sexual orientation, their race, their religion. That is not what America is about.
I'm going to answer. I'm going to ask my question, Ms. Justice. Mrs. Justice.
Thank you.
If a parent believes that their child should be able to read Ruby Bridges,
we believe that children should be able to read.
Then
Ruby
how
Bridges.
can Moms
American
for Liberty
hero.
insist that the school board take that book away and then say that a parent who wants the child to be able to read it must purchase it? That's essentially putting a tax on parents who want their children to read the book.
No, it's not.
Well, let me just be clear. I got into Harvard only because of affirmative action.
We all know